Good day, I'm David, and welcome to EV World News, where we talk about electric vehicles, green energy, and the stock markets. I've got something interesting to talk about today, and this is maybe to dispel some myths, but there's a lot of questions when it comes to electric vehicles. And this article from the Philadelphia Inquirer is not surprising. Electric vehicles are not without environmental consequences. No lithium, no mine, displayed on a sign on an Indian reservation in Nevada. Pennsylvania is is the US's third largest producer of electricity behind only Texas and Florida. The bulk of the energy comes from coal, gas, and nuclear. Solar, wind, and hydropower only account for 3% of Pennsylvania's energy production, yet left-wing environmental groups have been attacking the development of our state's abundant natural resources, saying they pollute the earth and are the cause of climate change. This year, the State College, Pennsylvania-based company EC Power and Flex announced plans to build a lithium-ion battery factory in Phillipsburg, Pennsylvania, potentially bringing 150 jobs. Those batteries would power electric vehicles that environmentalists promise will save the earth. What the environmental left fails to grasp is there's no panacea. All solutions have a cost. The EVs are not without environmental consequences. There are swaps and trade-offs. Denigrating oil and gas while ignoring the environmental consequences of mining lithium for electric-powered vehicles undermines the moral superiority that environmentalists exhibit to shame the rest of us. Now, what's interesting about this is I understand the argument about lithium, and a lot of it comes from three countries: Bolivia, Chile, Argentina. More parts of electric batteries also come from China. One of the issues is an indigenous man living near Argentina's border with Chile told the Washington Post in 2016, "These lands are ancestral. We live by this, by the fields, by our cattle. This way of life is in danger." Well, one of the things that is changing is batteries aren't always going to be using lithium. There's new technologies coming out for solid state batteries that don't use lithium and they don't catch on fire. A lot of the things that people preconceive about the way that batteries and the harm produced in the manufacture of electric vehicles is simply going to go away. So yeah, I reckon that the best way to look at it is if you look at history of aviation from 1935 to 1945, air forces went from using biplanes to having jets. And that's kind of where electric vehicles are headed. The industry really hasn't existed for very long, and we're seeing rapid changes in that industry. I think we're going to see 1,000-mile range batteries. We're going to see cars that are so much faster than what's currently available. It'll satisfy the gearheads, and simply we're going to have more cleaner air as a result of it. And it's not going to be such a decimation of the environment as some people would lead us to believe just based on some of the history of lithium products. We're going to go on to something else. We've reported previously about the electric vehicle graveyard in China. And in recent times, viral videos and news stories have depicted the striking sight of thousands of abandoned EVs strewn across fields in China. This alarming image has led to some speculate that the demise of these EVs signifies the impending failure of electric mobility. But this couldn't be farther from the truth. While it's true that thousands, maybe even tens of thousands of EVs have been left to decay around Chinese cities, the crucial context here is that most of these vehicles were associated with car sharing or ride hailing services that faced failure. Inside China Auto recently showcased one such Chinese EV graveyard. I'm sure you've seen images of this. It was filled predominantly with Neta 5 and a company called BAIC's EC3 electric vehicles, which have been primarily used by these failed services. Over the past few years, several car sharing companies in China have folded after deploying large fleets of low range EVs in urban areas. This unfortunate turn of events has left these electric cars stranded in limbo. Some critics have suggested that these abandoned vehicles are brand new and merely ploys to exploit government subsidies for electric vehicles. However, in this case, it appears that most of the vehicles have had seen substantial use and in some cases have been significantly damaged, likely due to neglect while being part of the car sharing programs. This pattern of abandoned EVs has been observed in multiple Chinese cities, with various reports emerging about the reason. The real lesson to draw from the situation is not that electric vehicles as a concept are destined to fail. It's important to note that we're talking about fewer than 20,000 EVs in a country that boasts millions of electric vehicles. These are not representative of the broader EV market as well, because the primary issue at play here is the quality and performance of these specific electric vehicles. Most of them had a range of less than 100 miles. Many didn't even have a 50-mile range on a single charge. Car sharing companies believed that by inundating cities with these low cost EVs, they would be readily embraced. However, the reality was quite different. The EV's subpar performance and user experience, combined with the efficiency and speed of public transportation in Chinese cities, deterred potential users. The true lesson to take away from this situation is that electric vehicles will succeed when they are superior to internal combustion engine vehicles. These abandoned vehicles failed not because they were electric, but because they were inferior products. The attempt to compensate for their shortcomings by deploying them in car sharing or ride hailing services proved unsuccessful. Perhaps the most disheartening aspect of this entire situation is the lack of recycling or repurposing of these abandoned electric vehicles. They're just left to deteriorate in the field as representing a significant waste of resources. Urgent action is needed to address this issue, and it aligns with the broader sustainability goals of electric mobility. The viral images of abandoned electric cars in China do not signify the failure of EVs as a technology or concept. Rather, they underscore the importance of developing high quality electric vehicles that can outperform their internal combustion counterparts. This episode serves as a valuable reminder that success in the EV industry depends on producing superior products and not merely relying on their use in shared mobility services. Additionally, it calls for responsible management of end of life EVs to reduce waste and enhance sustainability in the electric mobility ecosystem. It's going to be interesting to see where this plays out. Despite how people feel about electric vehicles, they're going to become cheaper. The batteries are going to have longer ranges. Issues of range anxiety, where you're going to charge next, those are all going away. The danger of fires is been corrected for the most part, and that'll go away as well. Most of the people that have these misconceptions, we're going to see a big change in the next 10 years. Most people will want to switch to EVs, not because of necessarily people are telling them they have to, but because it's going to be a better experience, because they're going to technically be superior automobiles, and that's going to change where things are going in this world. Anyways, I'd like to thank everybody for tuning in today. A short show, ProTrader Mike wasn't available. And anyways,